Welcome to another edition of Danny Brown Talks Phoenix. I am your host, Danny Brown. I am joined today by Wendy Doris, also known as FlippinWendy. She has a huge Instagram following, and she is an expert at flipping homes here in Phoenix. Welcome to the show, Wendy.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started with flipping properties here in Phoenix?
Well, I've been flipping for about, I don't know, maybe 12 years now. I've been flipping in Phoenix for a little over 2.
Okay.
So I started in Cincinnati, and in Cincinnati the prices were much less.
Sure.
So it was a little bit easier, I don't know about easier, but felt more comfortable getting into it when you're buying a property that's $50,000 rather than $200,000 to start. But I started by renovating my own personal home first when I was about, I don't know, my mid-20s, and fixed up the kitchen, fixed up the bathroom, and then I met my husband, and when we moved in together, I sold that house and made a little bit of money, but so then we went from 2 mortgages to 1, and then I was able to, use the income that I had to buy another property since we only had 1 property now.
So with that first venture with remodeling and flipping your own personal home, is that kind of where you got the itch to try and make a career out of it?
Yeah, I think so. I know I was watching some shows that back then, I don't know, Trading Spaces or whatever it was that was on, and I was very interested in remodeling. There weren't really flipping shows on, so I don't really know how that came about, but yeah, I was just interested in seeing if I could make some money on it. I wasn't exactly happy with what I was doing for my job, so I thought I'll give this side project a shot.
So how do you go about then, you did your first one, which was a property that you already owned. What did you do to kind of find the next property that you were looking at flipping?
I just went about it like anybody that's just looking for a house to live in. So I didn't know what I was doing. I was making it up. There were no seminars or anything like that back then. So I just contacted an agent that I had been working with, and we went and looked at a house. I think it was the first house maybe, but something that was cosmetic. It wasn't too scary, not a lot that I needed to do, but it still needed some updating and cosmetic help. So it wasn't that hard of a flip. I mean, it was still difficult since it was my first one, but
sure.
Looking back, it was pretty minor.
Now, when you say cosmetic, what does that kind of mean to you?
Like paint, maybe some new appliances, tile, new fixtures. So we're not removing walls. I didn't even do flooring. I mean, it was hardwood floors that we refinished in Cincinnati, so didn't have to put in new flooring. So not like a lot of changing around of the floor plan. In fact, the cabinets stayed. I think we painted them. Okay. Put it on a new counter. So minor updates.
Sure. So if somebody was looking to get into flipping, would that be something that you would recommend, to start kind of small? Don't dive in and look for a home where you have to gut the whole thing and start from scratch?
I think I would recommend that. But there's, of course, some side notes about that, because first of all, if you have experience with renovation, maybe you don't need that. But if you don't have experience with updating a renovation, that would be a good place to start, because you don't need to hire a GC, and you don't need to have a long timeline for your project. You can do a lot of the projects yourself depending on your skills. But in this market right now, that's going to be very hard to find.
Sure.
So
yeah, there's a lot of competition right now due to the lack of inventory and just buyers from all different walks of life, all looking for homes.
Right.
So it's super challenging right now to find those homes that just need a little bit of lipstick.
I mean, I would take that if I could. Sorry, I touched my mic. But if I could find that, yes, I would do that. And yeah. I found one this year, actually, shockingly. But you have to be on your game. You see it, you pounce, you take it. So
how do you go about finding homes and doing the research? What sort of resources do you use to be able to pick the home that you want to flip and make sure that you make a return? So kind of decrease your risk and exposure.
The first thing I do is I have people on my side. So real estate agents. I don't work with just one because there are agents that, as you know, specialize in certain things or certain areas, and so I have a few people that I work with that know what I'm looking for. Second, I just spend a lot of time when I'm looking for a house. I spend a lot of time looking, you know, on Zillow or just Craigslist, anywhere where you can find listings, or the email feed that I get from agents. But I usually just tend to stalk a certain area. So if it's an area I'm comfortable with, I really, really pay attention to certain streets, certain houses. I kind of watch that way. When something comes up, I know what I'm looking for. I know what I'm looking at. I know what the prices are in that area, and so I can jump on it.
So it sounds like you kind of take control of the process. You use an agent to kind of give you access to the resources to be able to look at the MLS and search for homes, be able to write the offers and those types of things, but you become the expert in the neighborhoods that you like.
Yeah, if you want to move fast on a property, which you have to do in order to get them, you have to know what you're looking for. You have to know what you're looking at when you see it. So you need to know what the price ranges are in that area, what's something going to go for. And if you don't know those things, it's just going to slow down the process. So I do have people that bring me properties that I don't know the area, I don't know the street, I don't know what kind of sale price it's going to be. So that just takes a lot more time to figure it out. And that time that it takes for me to figure it out sometimes would mean that I would lose the property.
Sure.
Somebody else can act faster if they are experts in that location.
So when you're doing your research, what sort of things are you looking for? Whether you know the neighborhood or not, what makes a house a good prospect for you to come in and flip it?
This changes depending on how I'm feeling. I feel a lot when I'm doing this, so sometimes I'm not feeling like doing an addition. So I'm not going to pay attention to anything that needs an addition. Somebody will bring me a property and I'll say, no, I don't want to deal with that. It's a long process. Sometimes I do want to. So whatever I'm looking for at that moment, I kind of narrow it down. Do I want to do something that's only cosmetic? Do I want to do something that's only an addition, has a view, whatever? You know, I narrow it down to what I'm looking for at that moment. Like for instance, right now I'm not looking for anything right now, but a month ago or 2 months ago, I was looking for an Airbnb. So only something that could be used as an Airbnb and cash flow.
Okay. So when you're doing your remodeling, and depending on the mood that you're in, would you say that the more extensive the remodel, the larger the scale of the work, the better the return?
Not necessarily. It's all on how you buy it.
Yeah. So I'm a big argument, or I argue that when people are looking to do flips, that they make their money on the purchase rather than the sale, which seems totally counterintuitive. Would you kind of agree with that argument?
Yes, definitely. I mean, if you buy a house and it's not at the right price or at, leaving you enough room for that profit, you're only gonna, if you think you're gonna make $30,000, it's only gonna get less. Rarely does it end up being more than that, but
sure.
Maybe a difference in a market swing or something, but you have to buy it right for it to make sense.
And how do you go about making sure that you buy it right?
I guess I just make sure that I know all my numbers as well as I can. There's always going to be some numbers that I don't know, like how much does it cost to put on a new roof. Like a lot of those things I do know, but there's always going to be something, especially for when you're first beginning, that you don't know how much a block wall costs. You don't know how much a mini split's going to cost. So there's some holes that need to be filled. So just constantly learning and constantly figuring out how much things cost and being able to crunch those numbers fast.
Yeah. So you kind of have to, I imagine that you have kind of working spreadsheets on, you can kind of probably plug in roughly what it's going to cost when you're looking at a property. Say, this roof kind of looks tired. I know based on experience or just based on talking with other contractors that it's going to roughly cost this for a roof. And is that kind of how you build your budget?
Yes. I do have a spreadsheet where it I have it broken down to like a dashboard where it shows all of the final numbers and how much the profit's going to be at the end. And then different tabs that say like exterior costs, interior costs, finished material costs. And then they all kind of load the dashboard.
Yeah. And then I imagine you probably even have a margin of error, because whenever you're doing remodeling, you open something up and then you're like, oh crap, like now I have to deal with this.
Right. Yeah, I do have about 5 to 10% added to the cost of the renovation. It depends on the property, because like a smaller property may not have that margin of error, that large of an error.
Sure.
But I do have that loaded in. And then I have everything down to closing costs, marketing costs, agent commissions, insurance, all those things that you kind of forget about and they don't show on TV. So they all have to be there. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a property and I thought, this is going to be a great one. And then I put all the numbers in and it's no good.
Yeah. So I imagine that you run all these numbers and kind of have a good idea of what your budget looks like before you even make an offer on the property.
Yes, usually.
You got to work backwards. So it's probably, you go into it knowing that if I'm remodel this home based on what remodeled homes in the areas are selling for, if I have to put this amount into it, then I need to buy the home for this for it to make sense. So are you working backwards to kind of figure out what the offer looks like before you even make it?
Yeah, so in my spreadsheet, I put all the costs in, but I also put in what the asking price is or what I want to offer. And then I know if the profit is this much and I think it's going to take X amount of days, is that profit worth it? I don't know. So I'll play around with the purchase price, and then I know if I can't get it for this purchase price, I just am not going to get the property.
And I have to imagine you've been doing this for a long time now, that you're at the point where you're probably buying these homes in cash. Is that sometimes? When you need financing, or when you were first getting started, what type of financing were you looking at? Were you doing kind of hard money? Were you getting traditional financing? What did that kind of scenario look like?
When I first started, I didn't know what hard money was, and I don't even know if it existed, but it was before the market crash, so a dog could get a loan. So
yeah, anybody with a pulse?
Yeah. I just got a mortgage on the first house, so I think I put 3% down, not very much. And then for the renovations, I borrowed some money from a family member, and the renovation costs maybe like $16,000. Not a huge amount of money. Sure. The property itself costs about $100. So that's how I pieced together that one. And then every property is going to be different because of what cash is available, what investors are available. I have investors. So sometimes they have cash available, sometimes they don't. And I kind of check in with them to see, how you feeling.
So these are investors, these are people that you work with who kind of finance your projects, and then you pay, some sort of guaranteed...
Sometimes I split the profit.
Okay.
So that's a gamble for them.
Sure. They have to have a lot of trust in you and your skills. And
I make sure with those people that they know that this is a business where you will lose money eventually, or could lose money. So are you comfortable with that? So like if, for instance, let's say you had a family member that had $100,000 in cash. If they were to lose $10,000, is that going to break them? Like, is that going to seriously? I mean, it's up to the investor.
Sure.
It's their money.
How risky they want to be.
Yeah, how risky are they going to be, and do they understand that that's a possibility? But there's always the option of doing hard money, and hard money just means pretty much like a kind of like a private loan, just like getting money from cash from a person, just a private lender, I mean, but it's just a high interest rate.
Yeah.
So they're guaranteed that high interest rate. So let's say,
and normally it's like 20% down, so you have a higher down payment than you would with a traditional, depending on the hard money lender.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten it's 10% down.
Okay.
But then it might be like 14% interest or 10% interest. Usually that fluctuates, so like 15% down and 12% interest. Then it's a high rate, so you got to put that into your dashboard.
Yeah, you have to figure that into your budgeting. And I would imagine when it comes to flips, then if you are borrowing and able to, in order to do that, then speed becomes very crucial.
Yeah, speed is, that's one of the high anxiety parts of the job, is when you have a hard money lender and every month you're paying $4,000 in interest or something like that, and your contractor's not showing up, and something comes up that's going to delay. So even your closing can be delayed by a week or two, right? Yeah. For whatever reason. So that's...
Yeah, I mean, the buyer that's trying to buy your house could run into issues with getting their financing. I mean, delays in closing happen all the time for a variety of reasons. So that can end up costing you money if you have to have a hard money loan.
For sure. And closings are, what, 45 days-ish right now?
30 to 45, yeah.
And they could be 60. It just depends,
yeah.
The complications in the closing. So it's a long process. And if a flipper ever looks like they're losing their mind, they probably are, because there's like a lot going on at once. So dealing with the people that are working on your property, but also the money that's coming out. I mean, the people that are working on your property are people. Mm-hmm. They have their own businesses. They have their own jobs. You're not their only customer, and they're trying to make money too. So it's just, it's a puzzle for sure.
Yeah, and I have to imagine, especially right now with the lack of skilled labor that's in Phoenix, the housing market crashed. We had the SB 1070, not to get political, but that came into effect, and we had like a mass exodus of skilled labor force. And now with building coming back and commercial projects and residential builders building communities, there's this huge competition for a skilled labor workforce. How do you go about dealing with that and finding quality contractors to work with that you trust not to kind of screw you over?
I'm having a hard time with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you're always trying to find the people that you trust to work with. And when I find somebody I like, that I trust, I like to use them over and over on different projects. It mm-hmm. just makes it easier to jump into a project knowing you have somebody lined up. But right now in particular in this market, there's so many renovations, homeowners are renovating, everyone wants to flip. So the contractors are very busy, mm-hmm. and why would they want to work with a flipper when they can work for a homeowner who's going to spend a lot more money?
Absolutely. They start ranking the jobs.
For sure.
And you kind of get pushed towards the bottom.
And if it's a small job, like a cosmetic, they kind of throw that in as the extra. We'll go do that on the side. Mm-hmm. That means they'll never show up. And then so your cosmetic rehab that you thought should take 2 or 3 weeks maybe, if there was a dedicated crew on it, now has 1 or 2 guys showing up every 2 or 3 days. And that is killing the timeline that made this property work.
Sure.
So it's tough right now. It's hard to find dedicated crews for properties. I mean, anyone that's doing a renovation right now probably is having a hard time getting people to show up because they're just so overbooked.
Yeah.
And why not? I see why they would. There's so many renovations to do right now for so many people that will pay the money to do it. I mean, I've heard some crazy prices. And why would they want to come do yours?
Right.
Or they're going to try to fit as many projects in as they can while they can.
I've even heard, big builders, here in Phoenix, Richmond American, Shea, Pulte, names that are having trouble finding quality skilled labor to come in to do the work, and it's causing build times to be extended even for them. So if you're just a lone individual, how are you even supposed to compete? That's got to be extremely complicated for you and probably drive you a little bit crazy.
And what I'm seeing now is some guys that I have worked with, they have been overwhelmed for so long now, trying to fit in so many jobs that they're trying to slow down. Just mm-hmm. like I am. I'm trying to slow down too, because I don't want to have that frenetic pace. That doesn't sound fun to me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not fun for me. I know that. It doesn't. So
flipping's not for the faint of heart. It's not easy. Mm-mm. HGTV makes real estate flipping, investing in real estate, whether it be Airbnbs, owning rental properties, whatever, makes it look super simple and easy. And I get phone calls all the time from people either in Arizona, a ton of people from California saying, hey, I've got, you know, a few $100,000. I want to flip a property. Find me a good deal.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not how it works. I just can't go out and find you a good deal.
And if you could, you would do it yourself.
Right. Yeah, exactly. If it was super easy, then everybody would do it. So I think the takeaway from all the things that you're saying is that if you are going to get into flipping, like, be prepared to work your ass off. It is not passive income where you just pay someone to come in and do a remodel and then you put it on the market and you collect a check.
Right. And it's hard sometimes that you want to be able to have a system where you're doing something regularly. Like, you set something up and you think, okay, this is going to help me do this job over and over and over. Well, there's a market cycle. And so the market might decide that your system's not going to work now. So you have to be able to adjust to, you know, maybe a better play, which might be vacation rentals or single family homes. Like when the market crashed, a lot of people that had cash went and bought some properties that were super cheap, and now they're sitting on long-term rentals that, you know, are worth a lot of money now. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people, you know, to talk about the housing market crash are probably millionaires now because of that. I sold bank-owned properties during that time and was new into real estate here in Phoenix, and I wish I had thought of it or had the cash at the time to be able to buy some of these properties. And I remember a specific guy from the Northwest who had cashed out his 401k and was coming here on a regular basis and just buying as many properties as he could get his hands on. And at the time I asked him, like, aren't you concerned that the prices are going to continue to go down? He's like, no, I don't care. Prices could continue to go down. That just means I can buy more. And, you know, he put it to me in a way that it finally, like, it made sense. Like, the cost to build this house is more expensive than the cost to buy it. That's not sustainable. Right. So I know at some point in time, these values are going to go up. And he ended up buying something like 15 to 20 properties. And I know that he still has a bunch of them and is not an instant, but is now a multimillionaire because he had the foresight and the wits to do that. So. And
because of the crash, there were a lot of renters.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
But you have to be willing to do long-term rentals.
Which is a headache in its own right. Again, that's not passive income. I tell people all the time, being a landlord is not easy. It's not passive income. You're not just collecting a check. There's going to be months where you don't get paid anything because an air conditioner went out or a hot water heater needed to be replaced. Or you have to evict
someone because they're not paying.
Absolutely.
Which is a pain in the butt.
Yeah. So, but to get back more towards kind of the flipping thing, and I love your point that you have to be flexible and willing to shift your mindset, that your plan and roadmap to success is going to change because the market changes. You can't just keep doing the same old. So what kind of things have you done recently where the market's become extremely tight? There's a lot of buyers going after a very small amount of inventory. What sort of things are you doing to kind of shift your mindset? It sounds like you're kind of getting away from the flipping game almost completely.
Yeah, for a while there, I just wanted to keep doing the number of properties I was doing, which would be a few, a few a year, maybe 3 to 6. And so I've kind of just stopped forcing that on myself because it would make me want to buy properties that I don't need or won't make enough money. So
you kind of would take a gamble.
Yeah, and just being okay with that, that's hard for me to do. Just be okay with not doing the numbers I was doing. But then I'm shifting to doing Airbnbs. I like those because, well, we have a lot of vacationers here.
Yeah.
But it's working everywhere. And it's a property that it can hold like a long-term investment, a long-term rental, but I can have a little more fun with it. So I've done long-term rentals before. I didn't like it because I didn't feel like, well, I'm into the design part, so that leaves nothing for the design.
Yeah.
But a vacation rental does, so I get to furnish it. We're in one right now, so I get to furnish it, and I get to. Thank you. I really like to travel, so I like that portion of it where I get to help someone have a nice stay here in Phoenix. So I'm really enjoying that, and it's a way to hold properties without that long-term eviction hassle.
I would argue too that renters that do Airbnb probably treat the home or the property with a very high level of respect due to the ability for both parties to review each other. Where when you have tenants who are long-term, you'd think they would take good care of their home, but they don't. They live in it very hard, they damage things, they ruin carpets, and stuff just gets destroyed.
I've had that kind of property before. I've had 3. And every time they would move out, it was almost like starting over.
Yeah.
So then I didn't want to make the property nice because what's the point? But then it's like, that is the point of me doing this job, is that I want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get into it to, hire contractors. That's not the fun part. So yeah, the Airbnb is really great because of that rating system. There's a little bit of insurance coverage from Airbnb that kind of makes you feel better at night. But also the hospitality. I didn't think I would like that part, but I do. Like, I want to make sure people are having a good time.
Yeah.
Sending out notes saying, I hope you're having a great time. Let us know if there's any problem. And just making sure they have a good stay.
Sure.
I was surprised by that. Because that's not really like my personality, but I do have somebody to help. My sister helps, and she answers questions and stuff.
Oh, good.
She lives in Chicago, so she doesn't have to be here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So for our audience, if someone says, I hear you, Danny and Wendy, flipping's hard, but I don't care, I still want to give it a shot. What are some just real quick piece of advice that you would give to them if they were wanting to get into becoming a flipper?
Probably, first of all, just realize it's going to take a lot of research, and you are going to look at a lot of properties before you find one. If you don't, then you got lucky. But a lot of people I know, I've taught people how, done seminars and stuff, and they're like, I looked at so many, I can't find any. How do you find any? Well, you have to keep looking. You just have to keep looking. You have to be a stalker of that neighborhood. I mean, not creepy, but... But
almost.
Yeah, you got to be watching, and you have to be ready to pounce. So don't take those, like the fact that you didn't get a property yet, don't think of that as a failure. Think of that, I learned so much on that property.
It's almost like poker, where you should fold more hands than you actually play.
Right, for sure. I mean, I put in lots of offers and don't get the house. And yeah, sometimes it's a big letdown, but at the same time, it's almost like you did win by not overpaying for that property.
Sure.
So you saved yourself.
Yeah. Again, it just goes back to you make your money on the purchase of the property, not the sale. So do your homework up front. Make sure that the numbers make sense, and that you factor in kind of that error rate for any sort of incidentals and things that come up, that always come up when you're doing construction. That brings me to a quick question. Do you do full inspections as well when you're purchasing these properties?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
So I got away from doing that because I had contractors I trusted to go through and tell me everything, and then that didn't work. So I've gone back to getting full inspections, and I know, like, I can just see it as if I were on TV, like, why didn't you get an inspection? This would have gone better if you'd gotten an inspection. Well, you think a contractor that you work with really, can see all these things, but they don't have a checklist like an inspector does. So it's bit me in the butt sometimes. So I'm not going back to that. Plus, maybe we might think that something's okay, but an inspector is going to warn you that maybe this is going to be a problem in the future. Some inspectors can scare homeowners, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I just like to get a heads up on those sorts of things. And every inspector is going to be different. So even the first inspector that you have inspect the house is going to think something differently than the one that the homeowner,
absolutely,
the buyer, hires. So
you can have back-to-back home inspections done, and they're going to find wildly different things. It's very interesting when you have human beings that are doing stuff, and human beings make errors and miss things. So it's
and like some people are just really sticklers about something that they really want to see this certain thing, and they'll hammer it home Just like me, like I'm going to hammer home certain things, and so the one inspector will and the other inspector will find something different. You know, they're really electrical based, or I don't know, something that they really want to see, and so they'll pick up on it every time where another inspector won't.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to do some just quick questions, some house flipping myths. We've touched on some of these already, but is it easy to find a house to flip?
No.
No. Yeah, obviously not.
I'm going to say, like, well, sometimes.
Sometimes you get lucky, depending on the market. But people will get rich quick flipping properties. No, absolutely not. Things happen fast when you're trying to flip a property.
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
Sometimes you'll show up and the tile's already going in, and you're like, no, it's the wrong direction. And so that's like too fast. But then they tell you that the tile is going to go in tomorrow, and it doesn't happen for a week, so it's both. And then all of a sudden it's time to stage, and you don't have the staging furniture ready.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just hurry up and wait all the time.
Yeah, that's the whole real estate industry kind of summed up in a nutshell.
Or
hurry
it's
up and
wait and then hurry.
Yeah, right.
Like, okay, we don't need the tile. We don't need the tile. We need the tile.
So the last one is, any work will add value to a home.
No.
So real quick, you have limited resources, you have a home that needs to be updated and renovated. Where should people concentrate their money to see the biggest return?
Obviously it depends on the house.
Sure.
But something that's
general,
always going to be done is paint.
And that's super cheap to do.
Yeah. Paint, kitchen,
I would argue
bath.
kitchens and bathrooms sell homes regardless of whether or not you're flipping or trying to sell your own house. It's always going to be kitchens and bathrooms.
Yeah. Actually, I was just having a debate with a friend the other day that you would think that you would like replace all the light fixtures, and sometimes you do, depending on the age of the house. But do you need to go and put ceiling fans in every bedroom? Do you need to go and put nice light fixture in the laundry room or the closet? No one cares about that.
Nobody does.
And maybe they would want it, but
it's not going to keep them from buying the house.
Because they're going to look at the kitchen, they're going to look at the bath, they're going to look at the size of the rooms, and is there any work that they're going to have to do? Like if you painted the whole house purple, are they going to have to now have the whole house painted? Yeah. So, and
buyers always, double, if not triple the cost of what it's actually going to take them to do the work themselves.
Because that's true for them.
Yeah.
Don't you think? I mean, like, and it depends on who you know.
Yeah.
But a contractor is going to double the price for a homeowner because the homeowner will pay it.
If they don't know better. But yeah, so
true.
I guess that's true. But I would argue that buyers always make it a bigger deal than it actually tends to be.
Oh, yeah.
So if you can kind of take that out of the equation up front, that it's best to do that.
Especially depending on who's feeding them that information.
Yeah.
Because if it is another homeowner who is not used to, is used to homeowner prices, that's what they're going to give them.
Yeah.
Also, when you're hiring somebody, what are you getting with that person? Are you getting a warranty? Like, for instance, you can have an air conditioning unit put in by someone, a one-man show, Yeah. They may not offer a warranty or whatever, but they can get the job done. Now, what if you hire a company that has billboards and all that sort of stuff, and they offer a 10-year warranty, and that's going to be double the price.
For sure. They got to pay for all that marketing.
Yeah, so you just have to balance. You need to think about, what are you paying for?
Sure.
And what do you need out of this? So I think that depends the price. Do you know what I'm saying? I
do. So that's going to kind of help steer and dictate the price.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So you have an amazing Instagram. You have like some of the best followers that I've seen. So if people want to tune in and see what you're up to and kind of, watch you progress, how can they find you online?
I am at FlippinWendy on Instagram, no G, and FlippinWendy.design is my website. And that's
because people can hire you to actually do interior design as well, right?
Yes, I do consultations, and I do design for homeowners or flippers. A lot of times flippers get into it, but they don't know much about the design or don't know what to do, so they'll hire me.
Oh, nice. As like a consultant.
Right.
Oh, I like that.
Or I'll actually come up with a design. So it's like a full roadmap on it. You hand it to your contractor and they go for it.
Wow. That's
so I do that for homeowners and flippers.
Okay.
But a lot of consults, because like people don't know what to do. They have a million ideas. They've been on Pinterest for 40 hours and they have 80 ideas and they're not sure what to do. And also they're fighting with their husband about what to do, or they're fighting with their wife about what to do. So a lot of times I come in and I kind of like settle the dispute.
Well, because you have the expertise and the know-how and kind of the track record to show that, you know, you're successful at it. So I think that
there's
matters.
A lot of things that I realize that I know that other people don't about the process and the order of things and what will affect what. Like, we can't move that over there because then this is going to happen. And so I find that a lot of times those things come up. And then also giving people permission. Like, I really want to do this, but I don't know if it's practical. And I'm like, go for it. If that's what you want, let's do it and make that the priority. And they're like so happy.
That's nice.
Yeah. I love giving people permission.
Great. So any final thoughts before we close out? Maybe any questions that I didn't get to or anything, just words of wisdom that you'd like to share before we go?
Yes, there was a follow-up to one question you asked about what somebody should do when they start flipping, and that's getting people. Getting people around you that you trust and know you can work with. So that could be an agent that's used to working with maybe rundown properties or working with other flippers. Contractors, you know, start talking to some of them, and that way you can even get some of them to come on to the property and give you kind of like a ballpark of how much something's going to cost. And even if you don't end up getting that property, you'll have the education of going through a property with somebody who knows how to renovate. Yeah. I mean, don't waste their time, but you have to start somewhere.
Right.
A lot of the people that I know that really enjoy flipping more, maybe so than I do, is when they have a partner to do it with, like a husband, a family member, a wife, or, you know, a sister, whoever, somebody that can help take some of the burden.
Share the risk. You can bounce ideas off of, share the workload.
Right.
Yeah, that's probably super helpful.
Can check in on the property more often than just you can as one person. So that's helpful.
Good.
So just collect your people that can help make things a little more smoother.
Yeah, you got to have a good team on your side.
Right.
Yeah, I think that can be true of quite a few things in life. Just making sure that you have a good team.
Yeah,
cool.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much, Wendy, for taking
you.
the time to speak to us a little bit about flipping today. This was another episode of Danny Brown Talks Phoenix, and we will see you next time.